Welcome, we're doing an interview. My name is Kyler, artist name Chimaera. And this album, my debut album, Chimaera, I worked a lot with Jack here, so he was on the majority of the songs vocally. And we're just gonna talk a little bit about what the album meant to us and some other questions, so.
This album's been kind of a project of ours for like 5 years now. Something like that. It's a super long time. So I think for me, writing all of these songs, it's really just about the process that you have to go through with going through change and like overcoming hurt, you know? Because I mean, in a 5-year span, everybody goes through so much.
Jack and I have never explicitly talked about the meaning of the album or what we were trying to convey. Where we ended up interpreting the entire thing is almost the exact same. So if I were to put 2 words on the whole album, it would be cyclical adversity. So it'd just be the fact that, we started writing it in 2017, so that would be Air and Water and Fuji we started working on first, and those, in my mind, are like the bigger symphonies of the album. Yeah, and they have a lot of content lyrically and emotionally. Those were the songs that we started making back in 2017 when we were much younger. I would say less wise, less experienced, because over the course of the years as we started working on the music, it evolved into what it is today, and that took years of experience and going through hard times. We describe the pain of going through change, but also the gratitude and gratification of going through it and seeing positive impact on yourself, like seeing yourself grow and mature and be a better person, but then you can just easily be humbled again. The difference the second time around is that you're now in charted territory. Like you've gone through it before, yeah. And you kind of know how to take care of yourself and go through it in a better way, in a more efficient way. And there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, so. You see that a lot in the imagery that we're using, we're playing with, you know, a lot. It's always a climb, it's a swim, you know, gasping for air, everything like that. That's why, you know, we use so many of these motifs throughout the album to, you know, kind of represent where we are at that particular time in that moment.
So yeah, we already mentioned it took about 5 years. We started in 2017 with Fuji and Air and Water. Most of the other songs like Keep, Secret, and Seasons, those were all made like within the past year. And those just kind of filled everything in.
I think that we couldn't bring ourselves to like let ourselves be done with, you know, these pieces until, you know, I mean, ultimately until now, to where, you know, we felt like they had gotten all of the attention that they deserved. And I think that each piece just required not just a little bit more work, but a little bit more like time and experience for both of us. You know, so it's been this like living, breathing, you know, thing that we've kind of been just nursing for the past few years, you know, trying to like almost like incubate it, that kind of thing. We don't have an idea of when these things can be fully fleshed out in this, you know, grown thing, then they never will be, you know. And so I think ultimately, like this year especially, or you know, the past year of working on this has been, I think, really cathartic for me. I'm sure for you too. But you know, letting yourself just be, you know, satisfied with, you know, what you've done finally.
Yeah, that was a legitimate fear of mine is that I felt like I was never gonna feel like it was done. Like I could continue to tinker on this project for many more years, and it, you know, it was a legitimate fear. And then you had mentioned to me at one point, which resonated with me, was you just said, you'll know when it's done. And it shouldn't be rushed because there's a lot to be said here. And, you know, from the producing standpoint, a great example is Air and Water. So I started that in 2017, and my production skills in 2017 were nowhere close to where I am now. So it went through a lot of revisions, it went through a lot of cuts. Like there are lots of sections in Air and Water that I tried something and it just didn't feel right, and a lot of wasted time. But I know that that was the right decision to make those cuts and to make those decisions because of where it's at now.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with it, and I can't imagine it any other way. 7 songs on the album. The intro is Keep, and the reason why I named it Keep is synonymous with like a fortress or like a castle. So in my mind, being kind of a Lord of the Rings nerd, and both of us are,
Oh yeah.
I just pictured Helm's Deep, like the attack on Helm's Deep. Because when you go through adversity, when you go through adversity, it can feel like an onslaught barrage of energy, of convoluted stimuli, just dissonance. And I tried to capture that in the song, like a lot of instruments and things that aren't quite harmonious. All that was to emulate the feeling of dissonance, of facing a new challenge. To Air and Water, and I want Jack to talk a lot about Air and Water, but Air and Water to me is about, it's very playful. Between air and water, they're two elements that need each other, that are harmonious. And
I think Air and Water was really the first thing that you brought to the table with us, like all those years ago.
I think so.
And I couldn't really hear lyrics to it back then. I thought it was just this beautiful instrumental piece that didn't necessarily need a story to go with it. When I was, meditating on the song, the thing that I kept coming back to is like the juxtaposition between needing air when you're underwater and needing like surrender yourself when you're above water, that kind of thing. No matter where you are, no matter like, in what situation you're in or what you're going through, there's this feeling of like discomfort and, you don't feel safe.
So you would say like finding acceptance in the discomfort.
Yeah.
That's not great job.
Thanks. Almost like resignation, surrendering yourself entirely to just the situation, stay underwater till the air runs out, that kind of thing. But it's juxtaposed by it is very playful, but it's playful, the whole song is playful in this very contemplative, kind of way, when you need to just accept that everything around you has its own purpose, has its own way about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next song would be Sentinel. And, I have my take on Sentinel, I'm curious yours, but...
At that time when that came together, I was really fixated on just divine feminine energy. Because I'm a pretty spiritual person, I was just kind of letting the only energy that drove me to make decisions be from a feminine standpoint, that kind of thing. And so, again, back to all of the imagery that we use, I was picturing this, goddess-like being guiding all of my decisions and everything. And that's kind of where my head was at that time. And that's another thing to be said for a lot of these tracks, but specifically this one, the line, the sentinel watches from the top of Fruited Plain. That's to me, it's recognizing that, whatever force that you recognize is driving you is also omnipresent. And it's like a celebration of that. It's like an appreciation of this creative force that I just happened to at the time personify as this feminine presence. And it's like this, it's almost like a hymn, to this, a psalm almost to this thing, to go back to religious imagery, which not religious, by the way.
But it's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's justifiable to use those kind of words for something so powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Secret, there's not really, it's kind of an interlude to the album. It's just riffs and instrumentals. We could call it a transition between, the mindset that is Sentinel and then Fuji, which Fuji has a lot going on in it. So talking about Fuji, wow, so Mount Fuji, mountain, and in my mind symbolizes climbing adversity, getting over a challenge, getting over whatever it may be, and then summiting it and really truly, you know, healing, overcoming, all that sort of stuff.
The feel of the song, you know, when you first showed it to me, is this like, you know, it's this paramount, you know, obstacle, and there's like ebbs and flows, that kind of thing. And so, you know, I think this is sort of where we're transitioning in the album from, like, you know, acceptance of being down low and finding comfort and solace to it, to recognizing that, like, we are the only driving force in which we can do things. Or, you know, you go from Air and Water, where you're surrendering, you go to Sentinel, where you're, you know, appreciating, celebrating, yeah. To, you know, Fuji, where, you know, it's clear in the entire song that, you know, no one can climb the mountain for you. No one can save you from the fall. My mental health at the time was like kind of on rocky ground, to you know, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
And so everything that, you know, came together with this song is kind of a result of me trying to, you know, reach that summit. You know, that's somewhere in the distance. You know, it's clouded, but I can't see it. And then, you know, ultimately, you know, kind of cheering yourself on once you get to the top of that.
Yeah. So the chorus of Fuji is actually tattooed on me. So, you know, Mount Fuji, and then, you know, summit, the surface, weightlessness breaking, the name is related, the ocean underneath still stays the same. That is, like, that means so much to me. Those words mean a lot to me. And, you know, particularly in the sense that you will grow and change through adversity, and there's part of you that does change, but I think the part of you that really makes you who you are, like in the deepest sense, that stays the same.
Yeah.
And the next song, Aruri River, is, I think, plays into that concept, because Aruri River is the runoff river from Mount Fuji, from the snow caps. You know, you climb, you get to the top, but then naturally there will be a dissension at some point. You could be humbled at some point, or it could just be a natural grounding back from that high of overcoming true adversity.
There is this, you know, this sort of joyous feeling in, you know, coming back down, because the water is still carrying you. You know, and that's the whole theme with water, is like, you know, it's, you're releasing yourself to it. And so as we're taking this, you know, this journey back down, it's the water that's driving us. That was kind of my, like, conclusive bit to the whole thing. It always felt like this needed to be the last thing that I said. You know, with everything that has been said in the album, it's, you know, ultimately like, just let this river flow.
Not least, we have Seasons. So this is the only track on the album that I'm singing on. And at first I was a little wary of that. I thought that would be weird to have Jack on everything and then me just on a random song. But, you know, someone told me that it's actually fitting. I kind of created the music from the ground up, and I feel like it should be me to kind of close it, whatever it is we're trying to say.
Yeah.
So in my mind, Seasons is all about the newly obtained wisdom that comes with going through some shit, like some real shit, and you go through it, and then you figure out what the things, how to take care of yourself, how to basically have a better outlook on life that's more appreciative and grateful, as opposed to victimizing yourself, as opposed to just sitting in the pain, which is, you know, human nature to do that. Part of what I'm trying to say in Seasons in the lyrics is that that voice will come back, that voice of pain, that voice of distress. The way I'm singing in the song, I'm playing off these two voices. So there's this voice of distress, and then there's this voice of comfort and wisdom, and they're kind of talking to each other. really the best prototype I can explain for the voice of comfort is at the end when I bring back the lyrics from the other songs. So Sentinel, no, it's not a fracture. And that to me is just saying, you know, the universe is not out of place. Things aren't against you. Everything is as it should be. It's not a fracture. It's the way things should be. And then in addition to that, you merely capture what you can. It's important not to get caught up in all the other crap, all the other bullshit that you really don't need to be putting energy into. It should be invested in yourself and whatever it is that makes you happy. And that is kind of what that voice of wisdom is telling this other voice of distress. So I think that wraps up. Yeah, that was we just wanted to spend some time to convey what the album meant to anyone that's interested in checking this out. Thank you. We'll definitely be around. I'm definitely gonna make a lot more things under this brand. So thank you for watching and stay tuned.
Peace.